Wow, check out this new information out in regards to supposed input latency for Doom Eternal on Stadia. It is dropping Digital Foundry's coverage on its head. Let's get into it.
Stay sick cause I follow my gut. They say I was pushing my luck. I'ma push me a matte all black truck. Oh, I'm not sorry.
All right, what's up, people? What's up, people? What's up, people? It is your boy MM2K back again with a special video, a PNTS special. We're going to drop this first to the PNTS Patreon so all of our Patreon members can enjoy this, and then thereafter it'll be made made available to the public. So if you're watching this later in the public and you're saying to yourself, hey, how come I couldn't be a part of this as soon as it released? Go over to PNTSnetwork.com, scroll down a little bit once you hit the homepage and we talk about our Patreon, or you could just go to Patreon and look at PNTS Network and become a Patreon member. All it takes is $1 and a dream. But if you invest in higher tiers, you'll get much more reward. So with that being said, here's the thesis of this particular video today. For those of you that have been under a rock and you haven't seen this article that's on the screen right now, Digital Foundry released an analysis video of Doom Eternal on Stadia. And in it, they said some very peculiar things. First and foremost, they just say in the highlighted title itself, Doom Eternal on Stadia looks great, but the lag is too high, right? And they claim that they're on 300 megabyte fiber connection, that their setup, which is not true, but they say their setup is rated as excellent with 4K enabled. It's not the setup that was rated excellent because the setup includes your controller. The visual stream to the screen was rated excellent. So that part of it is true. The visual screen was, or the image that was being sent to the screen was being rated as excellent. You know, they're going to get their full 4K 60, right? And they said that with those results that they noticed, in so many words, they didn't make it very transparent, but they said in so many words that you get to 1800p a little bit more frequently than you do on Xbox, right? Which is the most powerful console in the world. They then claim that there are some frame drops or whatever, a little bit more frequent frame drops, which is fine, whatever. But then they say that they have some issues with latency, some big problems with latency. And they say that, let's see here, let's go to particular. They say there's no skirting around the fact that Doom Eternal is inherently less fun to play on Stadia. Again, there is no skirting around the fact that Doom Eternal is inherently less fun to play on Stadia. It looks fantastic. That 1800p picture is incredible to behold. And even compression isn't too much of a bother. The real sticking point is the latency. Even after adapting to it for a few minutes, I found getting a perfect shot on an enemy much easier by strafing left and right until the reticle aims aligns with them, rather than panning the camera with the right analog stick as usual. So they're saying that gameplay has to heavily be adjusted, and it's just inherently less fun. And then they cap it off with the unavoidable conclusion is that this game that is simply a lot more fun to play on a local console. Once you bundle in the field of view option, the improved terrain, and the snappier input, it's hard to justify going with Stadia purely on the grounds of convenience unless you don't have another console available. It's certainly playable, but to appreciate the hard work id Software put into nailing Doom, high tempo action, there are much better options out there. And for a genre that's defined by speed of gameplay, it stands out more so than most Stadia games I've tried. Sadly, then, it's a fascinating test case, but as with Wolfenstein Youngblood, the practical result spells out the problems that Stadia has with running FPS games, first-person shooters. Visually, it holds up, but the gameplay takes a hit. So here's the problem that a lot of us felt in regards to that. In playing Doom Eternal, this lag that they said it's up to 100 milliseconds extra lag that you're experiencing on Stadia. We didn't experience that. You know what I mean? And I think they said that the Xbox One X became was somewhere around 90 to 100 milliseconds of lag, and that Stadia adds like another additional 90 to or 75 to 100 milliseconds of that. So keep that in mind. So what they're saying is that Stadia is like around 170 milliseconds to, close to 200 milliseconds worth of lag, right? A fifth of a second extra. So that wasn't indicative of our experiences. We had problems with that. And we went back to Digital Foundry and said, what the heck is going on? They haven't responded. Subsequent of that, there's been a lot of ulterior reviews and analysis that have happened just within 24 hours of this releasing. And man, oh man, oh man, it makes Digital Foundry and Tom, what's this guy's name? Tom Morgan. It makes Tom Morgan look really, really bad. So let's go over the whole timeline, and then we're going to, at the back end of it, discuss it. And definitely, I would say leave your comments if you can in regards to what you feel about this. So if we go to the very beginning of this, after Doom Eternal's analysis was done on the consoles and PC, John Lindemann, also known as Dark 1X, part of Digital Foundry, did an analysis review. So big up to Trizzer Rector. He's a staple within the community. On Twitter, he asked, "Hey, no Stadia analysis?" John Lindemann then responds, "People were waiting for that. I didn't get code until yesterday, and I can't use Stadia at home, so I couldn't cover it anyway." So very snarky and just peculiar reply. And then he was followed up too by Logic Police, another person within the community. Big ups to him. He says, "Wait a minute. You write a piece about Doom not being true 4K on Stadia, which is true, but you don't even mention its performance in this article. I see that the article was about current gen, yes, but you did talk about PCs. That seems a little fishy, to be honest." And then they talk more about, the code didn't come and I can't cover it and Tom might do it, which Tom did a butcher job on it. And I said, and I responded, I said, if Tom is in the UK, then it's not feasible. I've already put this out here. I said, if Tom is in the UK, it's not feasible for him to do it now with the data caps and in other words, the whole COVID-19 bit. But I said, nonetheless, as a tech evaluation camp, all of them should have access to a gigabyte internet, Cat 7, 8 cord, 6 feet, $10 to $20, an optimal router, which is around $100. They all should have access to that. Now, John is making the claim that he can't get a gigabyte internet where he's at, which, okay, whatever. And you don't necessarily need a gigabyte internet. I was just saying they have the most optimal experiences. And I was just doing that as an example to show you that when you total all this together, it's like, what, $200? Then you add in the Stadia Premier package, which is $130. So you take 200 plus 130, that equals 330. So less than the cost of a Xbox One X at retail, at full retail, they could have all this stuff. And if you don't have a gigabyte, you don't need a gigabyte, as we're going to prove via some other testing that was done. So, the community was in a minor uproar about this. But then I thought about it and I said, you know what? Maybe it's better that they don't do it. Because I got to feel that these people just don't like Stadia. They don't. And I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to use the jealousy card. I'm just saying they don't like Stadia. I mean, John Lindemann says it right here. He says, yeah, maybe Tom can do it as he has the connection and hardware for it. I really don't care for streaming at all to begin with. But even still, my internet isn't great here. So, you know what I'm saying? So there goes all the cards that were out there. So then after hearing that or seeing that, I said, you know what? It's best that they don't do anything in relation to. But then they dropped a bomb on me, baby. They went full Gap band. And Tom did do the aforementioned article, which we talked about. So here's been the problem since that article. And I highlight the issues with the article here in this tweet. I say the big issue with the Digital Foundry Doom Eternal video, it seems rushed with lack of typical analysis from the team, positives thrown in, word salad while negatives dragged out, Video didn't include COVID-19 big bottleneck byline and shows no effort of troubleshooting likely causes of latency, period. So, because of that, it's just their whole intent was just questionable. And big ups to Fall of Duty. I don't know who this guy. He wants this. He wants this Flopia tag to. He follows me everywhere. I'm about to get nervous and get a restraining order. He follows me everywhere and uses this Flopia line, and it's not going anywhere. So cut it out, Fall of Duty. So anyway, so that's the kit and caboodle. After all that, a day later, we finally get a for sure review. And I'll drop a link to a video that I did on this earlier. But Android Police did a review on Doom Eternal. And despite them only having 25 megabyte access, they say with their 25 megabyte access, they consider that a solid connection. Playing on Stadia feels just like playing anywhere else, right? And this isn't a glowing praise because in their analysis, which I don't agree with, and I speak to why I don't agree with in the video, they basically say that their selling points of Stadia is buy it if you enjoy Doom 16. You're generally in the whole fire and brimstone type of vibe. They say don't buy if you need modern tropes like regeneration of health and cover to have fun with the shooter. And they say this, you have somewhere else to play it. The Stadia version is great, but there's not much reason to choose it over any other platform, right? And that's coming from the vein of somebody that clearly just sees a dedicated device as their pure benefit. If you're someone like myself who sees the other benefits of dedicated devices, not just the frames and not just the great fidelity, but beyond that, I look at the no loads, the stuff that everybody's gawking about now that they're going to get next generation, which may not come till next year, but the no loads, the constant 60 frames per second on everything, right? Everything has a performance mode. Every single game on Stadia has a performance mode. The no loads, right? And the mobility of it. And the low entry point to get in. And knowing that I already own the next gen model. By investing into this one time, I already own the next gen model. There is no continuous dumping $500 on this or doing the mid-gen refresh. There's none of that. I already own it. So the simple fact that I have all that in there, it makes more sense for me to build my library on this platform and get the Stadia version for the simple fact of the mobility and the lack of load. I'm an adult. I have things to do. I may not always have time to game. I might just have 45 minutes. And opposed to me saying, nah, you know what, I'll just watch Hulu. I can get the full game of 45-minute gaming that I want because there's no loads and it's easily portable. So that's a great thing. But again, even though I don't agree with that, that doesn't discredit this entire review. Like, it's spot on. Even on the parts where I don't agree with it, it's a fair analysis. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you do close the gap on the 60 frames per second and you already have a dedicated device and you don't care about traveling, I can understand where somebody like this reviewer says, like, I don't really see a need of getting it on Stadia if you already got, you see what I'm saying? Like, you already got the call, I don't see the need. I can dig that. I can dig that. You know what I'm saying? Well, even though I disagree with it. So you had that. And then I was on a 25 megabit connection. 25 megabit connection. Let me see. I have I think I have a tweet here. Yeah, here it goes right here. They say if there was a game where you notice input lag, it's Doom. And then he says, lag never felt like it was a factor in any or many of my deaths with my fairly average internet connection. I got about 25 megabits down on a good day. I didn't notice any input lag. There's a game where you notice it, it's Doom. Things did get a bit choppy on the end of my apartment farthest from the router, but my TV is only a few feet from it, so it was a seldom problem. So again, 25 megabits down? That's the performance he got? Unbelievable. All right? So, with all that being said, that was bad enough. That was bad enough. Another major publication completely backhands everything that Digital Foundry said and really puts them up to task. And I did a video on that. But since then, we got 2 other forms of rebuttal to what they had to say. This is from the homie Mr. Up For Scalar, okay? And wow, like this is really bad because he does a live or an instantaneous analysis of this supposed lag. Now, I'm going to flip through this video to the important parts, but I warn you, please be very careful because the language is not, you know what I'm saying? It's not kid friendly. So we're going to get into it.
Let's start the Doom Eternal, shall we? We're going
Look at that. Look at that. All right. Now I'm going to show on some more. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Hold on. Okay, let me go back again, and I'm gonna play the audio this time. That's 609. I'm gonna play the audio this time so you can see that. All right, so let's do it. Because I didn't have the audio on. My bad, guys. My bad, guys. I was so into the video I didn't have it on. But let's go back.
God. Oh my God! Look at this. Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my! Oh my! Oh my! Oh my! Oh my! Oh my God! Hold on. Let's see this input lag. Hold on, because it's fucking horrific. Here we go. Look at this input lag. Look at this goddamn input lag.
Look at that.
Where did you test this game, Richard? On a dial-up? On some Bluetooth goddamn controller? Why don't you use a Wi-Fi controller? Why don't you connect it to 4K HDR OLED television, mate? Real talk. Right. I know you're watching this secretly, or one of your staffs is watching it secretly. When actually you gonna give some credit? Credit.
Let me go back a little bit.
Digital Foundry telescope.
Okay, let's go back a little bit. All right, so watch this.
Look at this input lag. Oh my God. Take a good look. Take a good look, Richard. I hope you're looking through your telescope, Richard. I hope you can check this out through your goddamn telescope. Digital Foundry telescope. When are you guys gonna give? No, seriously. All right, real talk. No, seriously, Richard, mate. Real talk. I know you're watching this secretly, or one of your staffs is watching it secretly. When actually you gonna give some credit?
All right,
so to exploit your fan base, so that way you can reach 1 million subscribers, so that way you can make that extra money and charge people $5 a month for a lousy 4K little short videos. Give me a break. Come on. But let's look at the HDR. Look how beautiful the HDR is. No one talks about the HDR. No one talks about the OLED. No one talks about stability of the Google Stadia. No one talks about how smoothly it runs on a phone, even on a Wi-Fi hotspot. No one talks about that. Let's go look at the settings. Where are the settings?
Let's go. I want to do.
Okay. Who actually has a? You see, this is the difference between somebody who actually has this device, has the Stadia, has tons of videos on Stadia, versus somebody who doesn't. Okay? Versus somebody
Let me go back here. See, I
me a
want to get him
break.
to where he was shooting at.
Wow. But let's look at the HDR. Look how beautiful the HDR is. No one talks about the HDR
I think he's shooting around here.
with that Chromecast Ultra. Not once did it overheat. Not once did it shut down on its own.
Okay, I think this is where he starts shooting at.
But hey, I digress. Here, let's look at this terrible input lag. keep looking at this terrible input lag. No. Keep looking.
Look at that.
It's unplayable. Listen, this is just simply unplayable. Digital Foundry. How many lies are you gonna spread about? Listen, then why'd you even bother? Hold on. You know what, Digital Foundry? Why even bother make a video about Doom Eternal on Stadia if you're not gonna be fair? If you're not gonna be fair, why in the hell would you even bother? Oh, I know why.
See, and here's the thing, guys. No one's saying that there isn't latency, okay? But he showed right there that that the gameplay is pretty smooth. Not only does it look great, but it's pretty damn smooth. He showed you with the movement of the analog controller, and he shows you with the gunshots. Now, for those that normally play FPSs, you can see where, honestly, you can see where there might be a little bit more latency than there would be on a dedicated device. No one doubts that, right? No one doubts that. But it's not to the point to where what they say it is. You know what I'm saying? To where there's an extra 100 milliseconds, right? Now, people were refuting that. They said they slowed down the camera and you see it. And yes, I do believe that what you saw in the Digital Foundry analysis video did happen. They didn't do any CGI or anything like that, but it was an issue on their end while they were seeing that. That was not a typical experience for the typical Stadia user, is what we're trying to say. Again, it was not the atypical experience for the typical Stadia user that Tom of Digital Foundry tried to make it seem like it would be. It was a bad misrepresentation. You know what I mean? And for those that said to me, well, no, they're not lying about anything. Nothing is wrong. Nothing is wrong. They didn't lie, or they didn't I don't see where they were false about anything. No. The representation was false. And they said, well, you don't have a monocle MM2K. How do you know? All right. Well, y'all already saw Exhibit A from Android Police. You saw Exhibit B with Mr. 4K Upscaler playing the actual game himself. And now you're going to see Exhibit C. Somebody actually testing the latency. They're using some type of device that actually tests the latency. Let me expand this right here so you can see this. They are actually testing the latency via this device. I'm going to play for a little bit so you can see that they got a device up there testing the latency. Now here's what I want to do, because they got it time-stamped. Let's go to the first timestamp. They're about to do it. You see that? The first timestamp is at 141 milliseconds. I'm going to pause that. That's at 141 milliseconds. If Xbox One X, let's do the math. Let's just make this as elementary as possible. Let me see. Calculator. Let's do the math. If Xbox One X is coming in, hold on, let me make sure that I got this right. Let me minimize this. Let me go to Digital Foundry's measurements that they say there was extra lag. Okay, so here's what they say. They have a video where they show a camera with a lot of lag on it, right, and latency issues. And I think that was present, but it was a network issue on their end. It wasn't a full representation of the game. They said to cut to the chase, using a 240 frames per second high-speed camera, the difference between pressing the fire button and the action playing on the screen sees Stadia adding an extra 79 to 100 milliseconds over the same motion executed on Xbox. To be clear here, 79 to 100 milliseconds is the extra latency you get by playing Doom on Stadia. Interestingly, the Xbox One X result is quite lagging in one itself with 94 milliseconds. So they're saying that per their math, they said that it's at 94 milliseconds, that the Xbox One X is at 94 milliseconds, right? So let's do the math, folks. 94 milliseconds plus at least 79 milliseconds equals 173 milliseconds. Or it equals 194 milliseconds. So we should be seeing 173 milliseconds to 194 milliseconds. Okay? We should be seeing 173 milliseconds to 194 milliseconds. All right? So, if we're seeing that, okay, so on the first test, there was 141 milliseconds. Let's do the next test. Okay, slightly higher at 155 milliseconds, but it isn't 173 milliseconds. Nowhere near it. It's 155. Let's do one more. Wow! 130 milliseconds. Wow. So, when Richard Ledbetter went out to Digital Foundry in March of 2019, he did a full-fledged analysis. Richard Ledbetter of Digital Foundry went out, and in their analysis, they were looking at Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and they were amazed. Assassin's Creed Odyssey was coming in at 166 milliseconds, and they were amazed at that. All right, and in some cases, the Xbox One X was higher. I think it was coming. No, on Stadia it was coming at 164 milliseconds, and I think on Xbox it was coming in at 166 milliseconds. And they were amazed at the 164. They said it wasn't that big of a deal. Not just because it was close relatively to the Xbox One X, but the feel of it. It just wasn't horrible. So if 166 milliseconds isn't horrible, and we're seeing at the most 155, but 130, 140 milliseconds, how does that equate to you saying that the lag is just too high? Like 130 milliseconds isn't horrible. It isn't bad at all when you consider cloud streaming. And yes, it's there, it exists, but it's not that much. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, let alone the fact that you lied. You lied. We're supposed to be seeing an additional 173 to 194 milliseconds of latency. And this just disproved all of that. You lied. So, with all that said, I think it just goes to prove that Digital Foundry can't be trusted. We are not to rely on them for analysis, particularly when it comes to cloud gaming. They have said, if I can find a tweet, they have said, they're on the record for saying with no problem, maybe somebody else could do it. I really don't care about streaming all to begin with. They had no problems blatantly saying that. Therefore, they are not a reliable source. But what they got to do is they already put their names out there. They've already, they've already done it. Now they got to answer for it. They stepped in this themselves. They could have just went about their business and not did any review and then left it at that. But instead of trying to do a hit job, instead of just doing that, they decided to do a hit job rather. And now they got to answer for it. And I don't want to see no crying about dark days. You know what I'm saying, on the internet. I'm not falling for that. I fell for it before when King Thrash had called him out, and it was Tom talks about. I'm not falling for that. You have to be accountable as an adult. You have to be accountable for the things that you say and you do ever so slightly on the internet. If you're so worried about pressure coming from you, then you're going to be a little bit more careful. So I'm not falling for that ploy. Digital Foundry as a whole, and particularly Tom of Digital Foundry, you got to answer for this. Why is every other account surrounding you does not equate to what you had to say? And why can't you guys be consummate professionals and judge right down the middle? A lot of questions to be asked and a lot of answers to be given. But with that being said, it is your boy MM2K. I hope you enjoyed this. Again, going up first for the Patreon members. Hope y'all love this. And then it's going out to everybody. But give your thoughts in the comment section below. And all you got to do to get this first when it comes out is join the Patreon. And with that said, you all have a wonderful, wonderful gaming day. Peace.
Stay sick cause I follow my gut. They say I was pushing my luck. I'ma push me a matte all black truck. Oh, I'm not sorry.